I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, Roger Hukle, author of Critter Adventure Tales, is on a mission to help young students develop their reading, writing, and comprehension skills through a series of books, audiobooks, and DVDs set in a fanciful early American village called New Colony, where diverse critters work together to overcome challenges and learn important life lessons. We're delighted to have Roger in the spotlight today. Thank the team at Rushmore Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and ask viewers like you to support creators like him by subscribing to our channel. Roger, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Logan. Thanks for having me on, and it's really fun. It's fun to be here with you, and it's fun to be working on this project. We think it really has some neat potential. So this is basically a kickoff for us. We just posted the first two books are on Amazon now. We just posted those. We've got another 3 that we're working on. But what would be most helpful, do you think, to your listeners as far as what the series is? What type of description would you like me to make?
Well, that's what I was going to get to, is like, let's give the big picture to the folks at home, what Critter Adventure Tales is all about.
So we like to think of it as stories with a purpose. Their intent is to both educate and entertain, and at the same time to help young students develop the reading, writing, and comprehension skills that are so important to get them through the grades, have them do well in school, and then as a follow-on into their eventual careers. So being able to use your given language in business or in scholastics or whatever, it can make a tremendous difference in how well you do for your entire life, actually. But you got to start young, and that's our goal. Start them young.
Wonderful. And it's acquainting young people with a lot of different concepts with this series. Early America, diverse groups working together. So tell us a little bit about how this series kind of reinforces these important educational messages you're trying to get across to young people.
So we'll start with the backdrop. And as you know, the backdrop, and you mentioned, is an early American colony made up of a diverse group of critters that work together to survive in the wilderness. And the stories are based on that platform. And as a quick example, in our first book, which is called The Do for Others Day, it's the stories about the town's leading citizen, Mayor Turkey. We thought that was appropriate for a politician there.
Most politicians are Mayor Turkey, President Turkey, Senator Turkey.
So Mayor Turkey decided it'd be a good idea if he made an official declaration that the next day, didn't give him a whole lot of time, but the next day would be everybody in the village would trade jobs for the day, so they could experiencing something new and something fresh and get them out of their old routine. And of course, he didn't plan to participate because he's an important figure in the village, and he wanted to be able to walk around and see what everybody was doing. Well, as it turns out, he was forced to, circumstances wise, and he ended up on a farm outside of town. And the story really relates around what happened to Mary Turkey on the farm, which was pretty humorous, we think. And then also what happened in the village itself as they traded jobs. And so every story we do has some type of a background lesson we want to throw in there. And this particular lesson is that we tend to take for granted what others do for us, how hard they work, and what would happen if that was interrupted somehow, where you didn't have somebody putting groceries on, food on the shelves at the grocery stores, or growing the food, or making the cars, or building the houses, or whatever. And so that was kind of the message there. And it had a happy ending. All of our stories have a happy ending. And then the second one that we've done is called The Food Pirates. And this is where a crew of pirates, there's a Captain Wolverine and a First Mate Wolf and 3 rat pirates, came up and raided the village and took a lot of the food from the village that the villagers count on, because winter was coming, and what you got to eat was what you grew or raised back in those days. A lot of people don't realize that back in, let's say, the 1700s, colonial area, era, about 90% of the population of America grew food. They were farmers or related to that industry. Today it's reversed, only about 10% are. But back then, they didn't have a grocery store. You could go and buy a gallon of milk if you ran out. You had to grow what you ate. So anyway, very serious thing. And it happened 2 nights in a row. So the village got together, and while the villagers were talking about how to approach this problem, what they were going to do, the children who were left out also got together and decided they'd go look for some clues that might be helpful to Constable Kruger to find the pirates. And they ended up actually finding clues, following the clues, discovering the pirates where their lair was. And at the end of the story, they actually captured the pirates. The children of the village did. And the story's about that, and they received their just rewards. But the message here is the importance of working together. If you have a problem, and really identifying what the problem is and figuring out what you're going to do about it. So that's the second book. But what we're really excited about, there's some follow-on publications that go with each book. The first is we're doing what's called a Color the Story adventure book. And in this case, we take a reduced version of the story, and we take our artwork. We have over 30 original pieces of art in every book. We take that and turn them into a color format so the child can actually color them. And we put a little sample down the corner that shows them what the colors that we use. They can use whatever colors they want. So there's a reading component. They can read it, but they can also color it. So there's an art component as well. The second type of book, we call them Complete the Story adventure books. And I'm probably most excited about this series of books, because what we do is we take the pictures from our stories, our characters, we put them on the page that kind of follow along the story as we wrote it. But each page is just full of lines. So if I'm a child, I can print or write or whatever level I'm at. And I'm taking, we're giving them our characters and our setting, and then letting them write their own story, use their imaginations. And the fun part is when they're done, they sign the front cover. They're the only names that are on that front cover. What a great gift for a parent or a grandparent or whatever. I'd want one of those. I didn't have them when our grandchild was being raised, but I'd love to have one of those.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love your multimedia approach to all of this. You've got the books, you've got the interactive books, you've got the audio books, you've got the DVDs. It's sort of like looking at a bunch of different modalities, and whichever way that child might learn best, there's an outlet for him or her.
Yep, and that's the concept. The DVDs themselves are really pretty fun. We call them Magic Motion DVDs. And our voice talent, this is one of our creative crews, a fellow named Mark Epperson. He's out of New York City. He's actually an off-Broadway show, has been on television. You know how that works. And so he voices all the characters, really a talented guy. And plus he does special effects, and we have music on the DVDs. But the magic motion part of it is, so you can watch it on a screen like we're talking now, and listen to Mark. You can read along with him if you're a child, if you want to do that. But the pictures, there's a spot for the picture on the page, but the picture's not there. And as the story gets to where it's starting to talk about what the picture represents, it moves across the stage and plops into that spot. So it's a little bit of motion just to make it a little bit more interesting, because if you're a child, you don't know what that picture is going to be. It'd be kind of fun to wait and see what pops on, what characters are involved in all of that. So we actually have those are completed. We haven't put them on Amazon yet. And there's some other marketing things we're going to do with them to make them available. We're still working on our website. We'll have that up here shortly. So those are basically the products we're going to do with every book in the series. We'll have those affiliated books to go with them. And like you said, you picked up on it. It's based on the child's age and what their interests are and all of that. Then there's different choices they'll be able to pick up on.
Exactly. Some kids are audio learners, some kids are visual learners, some kids need to be immersed interactively. So I think you've got all that covered. Is there a central theme to this series, would you say? Is it the diversity of America, perhaps?
Yeah, there's actually two. And what we like to promote, America from its earliest beginnings has benefited from the skills and talents of people from a lot of different cultures and backgrounds. And I think we tend to lose sight of that. We're probably one of the most diverse countries in the world. And we think that's actually a strength of our country, regardless of what the news media seems to focus on.
Well, they get their strength from dividing us, not uniting us. That's for sure.
It is. So that's one of the themes, is to acknowledge and identify the contributions of people from all different colors and all different countries or cultures or whatever. That's a big one. And the other big one from our standpoint is the importance of being responsible, being independent, and working together. And that's what we do with our critters in our little village. And that's also something that we're not so sure is being taught as it should be in the schools. Those things, especially the being responsible part of it. And the independent part of it too is where you control what happens to you up to a point. Now, when you're a kid, you don't have a lot of control over everything, but you can make good decisions. And taking that road as a child going up through the grades we think is a very important thing. So being independent, being responsible, and working together, that's the other probably major theme.
And also, imagination has no age. It seems to be one of the themes as well, which is one that you and I are happy about.
Yeah, that's a fun one, and I've got a couple examples. One is there's a young man named Alec Grevin that when he was 9 years old, he wrote a book called How to Talk to Girls. It made the New York Times best-selling list. And another favorite is Christopher Paolini. And when he was 15, he started a series called Aragon. And that series that he started at the age of 15 has sold over 32 million copies worldwide. My favorite is a young lady that at the age of 6 wrote a book that was published called How the World Works. So you think about it, we have a tendency to overlook the skills and talent of young people, of children, because they don't have the experience, and they still do goofy stuff because they're kids and all this kind of stuff. But lots of times their imaginations are so much more vibrant than ours, their focus, etc. So I don't know the background of these children that I just mentioned, but I can tell you there were some teachers or parents or someone that really gave them encouragement and direction and opportunities to use that imagination and to write and to read, learning how to read and write, those two things especially, so you can express yourself in your given language. Very, very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always feel children are as intelligent as adults. They just need to be given the information in a certain way that they can understand it, and what they will come up with is absolutely astounding at times. What's next in the series? What's coming up next for the Critter series?
Well, we've got one version. I think the next one we're going to do is going to introduce a tribe of Indians. They're all birds, and they actually come to the assistance of the colony. And so we've got that story in the works. We have another one where the secret of Lost Valley, where it's got an ecological message to it, where a hidden valley, actually you find a map, and the Indians and the colonists together go and find this Lost Valley. What happens after that? We also have one where there's a tremendous snowstorm, and the kids are trapped in the schoolhouse there in the village. And the hero of the day is Gopher, who does tunnels up and gets all that stuff. But there's an underlying message in all of the stories that we work on, and we actually have the artwork completed now. We do, as I mentioned, over 30 original pieces of art for every book, and the artwork's all finished. We've got the outlines for the stories. Right now we're getting the initial 2 up and going and seeing, the response we get to them, and then deciding which direction we want to take the other 3.
Wonderful. It's an exciting time. The series is a wonderful adventure that your children will not want to miss. It is called The Critter Adventure Tales. It is written by Roger Hukle. They are delightful books. They are delightful audiobooks. They are delightful DVDs. The first of the series is out already. More is coming. And this is a train you definitely want to get on. Roger, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
You bet, Logan. Enjoyed it.
Same here. And to the folks
Thanks.
at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.
The Food Pirates by Roger Hukle and Elizabeth Hilly. The Food Pirates is the second book of the New Colony Critters series of audiobooks, ebooks, printed books, and other learning and reading aids that showcase how America, from its earliest beginnings, has benefited from the skills and talents of individuals from many different backgrounds and cultures. This story involves the mysterious disappearance of food from the shops and family gardens of New Colony, and how the children of the village, through perseverance and ingenuity, solved the mystery, caught the food pirates, and received their just rewards from the grateful townspeople. The final message of this critter adventure is courage never fails, and courage is what was required to build a community in the wilderness in early America.